Have you ever wondered how income inequality could shape the political landscape of a nation? It's a question that often gets overlooked in political discourse, but it's one that has significant implications for the future of our societies. Income inequality, simply put, is the unequal distribution of income within a population. It's typically measured using the Gini coefficient, a statistical tool that ranges from 0, indicating perfect equality, to 1, signaling complete inequality. Yet this concept is far from being strictly a matter of economics. It's a political issue, interwoven with the fabric of power, policy, and governance. Historically, income inequality has been a persistent issue, a thorn in the side of societies, and its political implications have been profound. You see, when wealth is concentrated in the hands of a few, it can lead to an imbalance of power. This imbalance can distort democratic processes, as those with wealth may have undue influence over political decisions. But it's not just about the rich getting richer. It's also about the struggle of those on the lower rungs of the economic ladder. High levels of income inequality can lead to social unrest, as individuals grapple with limited opportunities and dwindling resources. It can breed resentment, polarize societies, and even fuel populist movements. Moreover, income inequality can shape policy in ways that further exacerbate the gap between the rich and the poor. For instance, those with wealth and power may push for policies that favor their interests, such as tax breaks or deregulation, at the expense of the broader population. This cycle can perpetuate and deepen inequality, creating a political quagmire that can be tough to navigate. In essence, income inequality is not just about dollars and cents. It's about power dynamics, social unrest, policy decisions, and ultimately, the health of our democracies. It's a complex issue with far-reaching political implications that demand our attention and understanding. Now delve into the past to understand how income inequality has evolved over time and its political consequences. The history of income inequality is as old as the history of civilization itself. From the time humans first formed societies, economic disparity has been a defining feature. In ancient times, the division of resources was often stark, with ruling classes and religious leaders commanding the majority of wealth, while the masses struggled for basic sustenance. This imbalance often led to political instability, rebellions, and even revolutions. Fast forward to the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, the gap between the wealthy and the poor widened even further. The owners of factories and industries amassed colossal fortunes, while the workers, who toiled in harsh conditions, barely eked out a living. This glaring disparity fueled the rise of labor movements and political ideologies that championed the rights of the working class, transforming the political landscape of many nations. In the aftermath of the Second World War, the world witnessed a shift in economic policies. In an effort to rebuild war-torn economies, many governments adopted strategies that aimed at reducing income inequality. Progressive taxation, public spending on social services, and labor market interventions helped narrow the income gap. This led to a period dubbed the Golden Age of Capitalism, where economic prosperity was more evenly distributed than it had ever been. However, this golden age was not to last. As we entered the late 20th century, the forces of globalization and technological advancement began to reshape economies. Traditional industries declined, while new sectors emerged, creating fresh opportunities for wealth accumulation, but also leading to an increase in income inequality. As we move into the late 20th century, observe how the issue of income inequality becomes more complex and politically charged. From the rise of populist movements to the debate over welfare state policies, the impact of income disparity on political dynamics continues to be a critical issue. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into this topic in the next scenes. Welcome to the era of neoliberalism, where economic liberalism took the center stage. In this epoch, the world saw a resurgence of 19th century ideas associated with laissez-faire economic liberalism. Neoliberalism, with its emphasis on free market capitalism, was seen as a panacea for economic stagnation. However, it brought with it a rise in income inequality, which had far-reaching political consequences. Neoliberal policies, including deregulation, globalization, and tax reductions, were designed to stimulate economic growth. But they also led to a massive concentration of wealth in the hands of a few. The rich got richer, while the working and middle classes saw their incomes stagnate or even decline. This growing chasm of income disparity gave birth to a new political landscape, One significant consequence was the rise of populist leaders. These leaders tapped into the frustration and resentment of those who felt left behind by the neoliberal economic order. They promised to shake up the system, often using divisive rhetoric that deepened societal cleavages. This brings us to another fallout: political polarization. As income inequality grew, so did the ideological divide. People on both ends of the income spectrum began to view each other with suspicion and hostility, leading to a breakdown in political discourse. The middle ground became a no-man's land, as politicians and their supporters retreated to their respective corners. Lastly, let's talk about social unrest. As the rich continued to amass wealth and the poor struggled to make ends meet, dissatisfaction simmered. This often spilled over into protests and strikes, further destabilizing the political environment. The Occupy Wall Street movement and the Yellow Vests protests in France are but two examples of the social unrest fueled by income inequality. So, what we see is a domino effect. Neoliberal policies led to a rise in income inequality, which in turn gave rise to populist leaders, increased political polarization, and fueled social unrest. As we step into the 21st century, the issue of income inequality takes on global proportions. The 21st century brings with it a heightened awareness of income inequality. As we traverse this era of rapid technological advancement and globalization, the issue of income disparity has transcended national boundaries and evolved into a pressing global concern. In this interconnected world, income inequality is no longer a matter confined within a nation's borders. It's an issue with far-reaching political consequences that seep into international relations and global decision-making processes. The divide between the haves and the have-nots has been widening at an alarming rate, not just within countries, but also among them. This stark disparity has led to a significant power imbalance, which in turn fuels political instability, conflict, and unrest, both domestically and internationally. The world has responded to this crisis by forming international organizations to address income inequality, such as the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and the United Nations Development Program. These institutions work towards establishing policies that aim to reduce income disparity, foster economic growth, and promote social justice. The political discourse around income inequality has also been amplified on the global stage. World leaders, economists, and activists have been engaging in fervent discussions, highlighting the urgency to address this issue. It has become a rallying point that has united people across continents and cultures, pushing them to demand change from their leaders. However, the journey towards global income equality is fraught with challenges. The political consequences of income inequality are complex and multifaceted, often entangled with issues of governance, corruption, and the influence of powerful corporations. Therefore, the solutions require not just economic reform, but also political will and commitment from leaders across the globe. In this era of globalization, the fight against income inequality is a shared responsibility. Through collective action and policy changes, we can strive for a world where prosperity is not just for the privileged few, but is a shared reality for all. Now that we have journeyed through time, let's summarize the main points of this discourse. Income inequality, a complex issue with far-reaching political consequences. We've journeyed through the historical perspective of income inequality, witnessed the rise of neoliberalism, and observed its global impact. Now, let's delve into the political consequences of this pervasive issue. Income inequality is not merely an economic problem. It's a political conundrum that has sculpted nations and shaped global politics. It's a multifaceted issue that intertwines with the very fabric of society, influencing policymaking, elections, and even international relations. In countries with high income inequality, we often see a political landscape marked by polarization. The wealthy, with their vast resources, may exert significant influence over political processes, creating policies that further entrench their wealth and power. On the other hand, those struggling economically may feel overlooked and marginalized, leading to social unrest and political instability. High levels of income inequality can also lead to a decrease in social mobility. When the gap between the rich and the poor widens, opportunities for upward mobility dwindle. This lack of opportunity can breed frustration and disillusionment, leading to political apathy or, in extreme cases, radicalization. Furthermore, income inequality can also stoke the flames of populism. When people feel the economic system is rigged against them, they may turn to populist leaders who promise radical change, often at the expense of democratic norms and institutions. This shift can have profound implications for the stability of a nation and its place in the global order. In a world that's becoming increasingly interconnected, the political consequences of income inequality reverberate beyond national borders. The rise of populist leaders, the erosion of democratic norms, and the increase in social unrest can all contribute to a more unstable and unpredictable global political landscape. Remember, the discourse on income inequality and its political consequences is an ongoing one, and each one of us has a role to play in it. Despite its complexity, it's a conversation that needs to continue for the sake of our shared future.